We are live. We are live. We are live. Hey, everybody. Welcome back. Thank you guys for coming through to another episode of the Teacher Project 2.0. I am your co-host, Really BTV, along with El Teddy 27 official. And so we're coming here to talk to you guys today. We've been a couple of things have come up over the last couple of weeks in regards to standardized tests. Now, remember, I told you at the beginning of this situation back in January, we had a whole schedule planned that Rona just came in and sort of like destroyed from within. But we did want to talk about standardized tests, but we're still going to be talking about standardized tests, but sort of from a different angle. Will be coming from the angle of the future of, standardized tests, where we are now and sort of the future of it. So, El Teddy, you want to speak to the people, say anything?
Hey, people. Hey, how are you? What's going on?
You know what? I'm sharing it.
I will say this, that everything's just tentative. That's the word. That's the word for everything. Everything is so tentative because you just don't know. Things change daily, and yeah.
So a couple of things. One, and if you guys are familiar with Hermit's TV Junkie, we saw a video that she posted on her YouTube channel. I'll put the link in the description box, where she lives in California, and she was speaking on some of the changes that are going to be made in 2025, I believe it was, with state schools, California state schools, no longer requiring the SAT or the ACT. You can still take it. You can still submit it for consideration to take higher level classes and also for the purposes of scholarship consideration, but it will not be used as requirement as far as getting into college. And so I'm sorry. And so anyway, that's what she was speaking on. And so that from that sparked a conversation amongst myself and El Teddy in reference to, is that the future, or is California going to be an anomaly? Now, based on population, California even is the largest state by population, not necessarily by land mass. So they definitely, it's not considered to be outside of the realm that they would be considered to be a leader in among this. So the question is, do we think that that's going to be the future? Now, myself, go ahead. What were you going to say, I'll
Sorry about that. I know I had to take,
That's fine. No problem. Stuff, I understand. We kept it moving. We kept it moving. Right now, it's just the two of us, so we just talking to each other. So we just having a conversation. So, what do you think? Do you think that it's
I think it's so fascinating that I say like this. Sometimes you get in this revolving circle, and like you're on the carousel, and you and I have spoken about this, and you're on just this endless carousel, and it's not until something uncomfortable comes and violently knocks you out of it, and at first you're like, oh God, that hurt, what is this going on, da 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 da. And then when the dust clears and settles and you really look up and see, I wasn't moving forward. I was just going around in this endless circle, not progressing like I thought I was, because I thought I was moving forward. Clearly, I'm just going around in a circle. And now after the dust settles and you get a chance to take a look and you say, oh, maybe that jolt or that violent hit that forced me out of my comfort zone was what I needed to make me see that I need to go in a new direction. And I do think that coronavirus and COVID-19 and everything that happened for the world of education did perhaps make us come out of our just the normal everyday, thinking and pedagogy with regard to education, and say, okay, we are in the 21st century. And we should try to elevate some of the tactics and pedagogy way more so that it meets the needs of the 21st century student and 21st century education. So I think that's what happened here. So I would definitely think, I don't think that we will be done with all standardized testing. I do think I am not one of those people that think testing is not needed. I do think assessments are needed. Absolutely. I certainly believe that some formal assessment must be had, because you always have those people say, well, I have test anxiety. And when people tell me that, I say, well, that I could make the same argument. Some people say, oh, I'm a great singer, but I have stage fright. Well, baby, you may not need to be a singer. You know what I'm saying? Oh, I'm a great surgeon, but I can't take blood. Blood scares me. Well, baby, you may not need to you know what I'm saying, be a surgeon. So I do think that sometimes you are gonna, I have, my pushback always is, you see what I call the diluting of of a lot of things, in that everything is always made to make people feel better and accommodate, and make everything more palatable, as opposed to saying, no, this is the standard, this is what I need you to meet, and that's just what it is. And I think that happens with standardized testing to a certain degree.
I too believe that there has to be a measurement, a standard of measurement, because I think we need to know where. I think the original purpose of the standardized test, I'm okay with. I think the way in which it has been used is my problem. But I'm with you. I absolutely agree that there needs to be a standard of measurement. I mean, because if not, what else are we here for? How do we know to help our students if we don't know where our students are? How do we know to help teachers if we don't know where teachers are and what's going on? You know what I mean? So I agree that there needs to be a standard of measurement. I don't always agree on how these tests have been used, and that's always been my issue. I think it's interesting, and I must admit I did not dig deeper to find out what the different debate was in reference to why California decided to make this huge leap, because it is. I don't think people understand how vast the school system is in the state of California. When you talk about state colleges, I don't think, and how large. I mean, you look at a USC or a UCLA, and you look at the amount of students. I mean, let's look at the admissions scandal. A couple of the schools involved in that was USC, I believe UCLA as well. And so there is a competition that we see people are really willing to go to jail for. So the question has to be, why did you decide that this was no longer a standard measurement that you wanted? And what are you going to put? See, the headline is that they're going to get rid of it, but what the byline is underneath the fine print is what they're going to do in replace of it. And that might be a scary situation to see what is it that they're going to use to replace it with. You know what I'm saying?
And that's what I'd like to think, because I do not think that it should all be left in the hands of, as much, and I'm a teacher, and I am a teacher's teacher, but I know teachers in education as well. And I don't think that simply your high school transcript should alone be the bar or barometer by which you are measured to get into college. Because you do
I
know.
have a plane flying over. I have no idea why, but I'm sorry. Sorry. I don't know what. I'm not. Sorry. I don't know what that is. They must be practicing something. No, I guess they did practice for the 4th of July. I'm near Air Force.
Muted yourself while it was going over?
Huh?
You could have muted yourself.
Don't do it. I really didn't. I honestly didn't think about it. Don't do it. Don't.
No, but what I was saying was, I don't think that.
I honestly didn't even think about it. I really didn't.
But I do think that I don't think that a high school transcript should be the only bar or barometer by which someone is measured to get into college, because we know grades, it depends on the situation. You have some people that are given A's just because, of whatever, because somebody liked them, because they're on the football team and the coach is, good friends with their teachers, or somebody may be graded more harshly because of race, because of gender, because of, for whatever reasons. We hear about that kind of stuff all the time. And so I do think that there should be a gauge or barometer by which we say, okay, it can't just be the high school transcript, which should be a part of it, but we need some other leveling, something that will level the playing field with regard to making the determination as to whether or not they can get in. Certainly, it can't be the standard college application and essay, because people write essays for people all the time.
Mm-hmm. Yes, they do. Sorry about that. I'm back. Yeah. That's, again, like I said, that's my bigger question. Is not so much that they're taking that leap. But my question is more along the lines of, and what are they going to replace it with? But I guess that remains to be seen. Do you, and Cali girl, Cali gal, I should say, I see your comment. Let's take a quick sidebar. She's saying, I learned that my child, sorry, let me mute.
I learned that my child is reading on grade level. Since she has been home, she spells better and reads better. I'm putting my daughter out of school. We will be homeschooling. Okay. And that may be the best decision for you and your child at this time. And maybe there may be other options, maybe looking into a different school, or maybe continuing with the homeschooling for a time, at least. I don't know what grade she's in, but at least continuing with it until, or I don't know, as long as you deem it necessary. I am someone, if I'm being brutally honest, am not a fan of homeschooling beyond about seventh grade, because once you get to eighth grade and higher, you do start to get to um, deep within the specific disciplines where you need to have a good knowledge of what's going on and how to proficiently instruct in that area. Oh, first grade. Okay.
Um, yeah, I agree. I'm not a big proponent of homeschooling beyond a certain age as well. I definitely understand that there's a place for it. I think you are dealing with a lot of things, a lot of issues that parents are dealing with. They're realizing that their kids are not where they thought they were academically, or where they thought their children should be academically. That's one thing that this has done, is parents have realized that their children are just not okay. You plan to stop at the sixth grade. Well, that's, yeah. I mean, I can understand that. Absolutely understand that. Um, the
I
one
don't
thing
know
that
that
I
I
think a lot of
understand.
parents have realized. Go
Go
ahead.
ahead.
What
I'm
happened?
sorry.
No, I was gonna say, I think the one thing that a lot of parents have realized through this epidemic situation is we weren't lying on your kids. Teachers weren't lying on your children. They weren't making this up about what your child is or is not doing, and what level your child is on when it comes to school. Like, we wasn't lying. And so I applaud the fact that you're being, proactive in realizing that, hey, my child's not where she was, and I feel like I'm doing a better job than what she's getting in school. And then you went on to say that this is the first graduates of Common Core, and they're reading below grade level and not prepared for college. Well, here's where myself and El Teddy, we disagree. I am not a fan of Common Core. He is. So we will definitely be doing a show in the future in reference to Common Core, and us discussing our different opinions on it. Um, I'm not shocked to find that data. I know what my experience with Common Core has been in
Well,
reference
what I was
to.
going to ask was, I don't know that I understood the statement. It said, I read this is the first graduate class of Common Core graduates that are reading below grade level. I, and the reason I say I don't understand, are you saying that class of 2020 is
Is
because
the first.
technically the first pure Common Core class is some time away from us. Like when Common Core first came, and correct me if I'm wrong, really, B, this was around 2011, 12, when we first started
It
getting
was
the
a,
first
yeah, it was around
iteration.
that time. Yeah, it was around
And
that time.
so I know in Florida, the first, and when I say a Common Core class, it has to be a group of students that started Common Core in kindergarten. That kindergarten class wouldn't be coming out until at the earliest 2 years from now, at the very earliest, maybe 4 years from now. So at least in Florida, I can say. Now, if you're talking about those students, we won't know yet. But if you're talking about the students that have had to take Common Core testing since its inception, and that this is the first year that that they're reading below grade levels, there's probably a lot of reason for that. Because if you remember, right after a lot of states adopted Common Core, a lot of people started to have problems with it because they said it was too hard and they didn't want to adjust to the rigor of the testing. And so a lot of states started pulling away certain parts of, well, we don't want to do this part, we don't want to do that part, or we want to change it all back totally. And so it kind of started to dilute the waters, and there was no fidelity with it. So you're very right. There probably could be students graduating that have had to have Common Core assessments, but that are not at grade levels, because there's Common Core as we knew it in its first inception is not that anymore. Like most of the states that had decided that they were going to go into it at first have pulled out and decided to do their own thing. So that's why I don't know that that's a fair statement, because there's so many things that probably were responsible for that. But I would like to read the article though.
Yeah, I would like to read the article as well because yeah, I'd like to read the article as well. Like I said, I am not a proponent of Common Core, so yeah. But I would definitely, but again, I can be wrong if I read it, and I'm willing to read the information and the data and all that good stuff. But I just know for myself and my experience with Common Core, and El Teddy is right. A lot of more and more states are pulling out. I really need to pull the data and find out how many states are actually still doing Common Core, because I know a lot of states have pulled out of Common Core. Anyway, so yeah, Miss Caligari, if you find the article, let me know. But if not, I could definitely look some stuff up, because like I said, we are going to do a show on Common Core, because like I said, we disagree. Well, I'm gonna say we disagree on all of it, but I know as a general statement, he's for, I'm against. So as a general statement, so yeah, but yeah,
and being honest, I am a fan of standardized testing. I do think there must be some standard that must be. I would, and this is the argument that I make for people all of the time. If this were somebody who had to, who was responsible for a service that you needed, let's say you needed a plumber, and that plumber said, well, I didn't have to take the regular plumbing test in order to get certified. I just did this. I just started working on people plumbing, and then I just decided to open a business and I ain't have to do nothing. You probably would be like, yeah, I don't know that I want you. I need somebody who know what they're doing. Not that there aren't some capable people that can do plumbing work for you, but I don't want, me personally, the way my brain works, I don't want somebody to do my plumbing for me if all you did was watch YouTube videos and you never had any formal. I said, not that there aren't some great people. I'm just saying, just in general, as a rule. And that was a horrible example. And I'm usually pretty good with examples.
Well, it was a bad example, but my issue is this. I don't have a problem with there being a standard. I have a problem with there only being one measurement of that standard, because everybody doesn't test well. And I don't agree with, well, if you don't test well, then maybe you need to do something else, because no, everybody doesn't test well. And vice versa, just because you test well doesn't mean that you grasp the information. So I don't have a problem with there being standardized testing. I have a problem with there only being one measurement of achievement. That's my issue. That, my issue is, the SAT being the end all be all of whether you need to go to college or not. I mean, and I know that's again, I know that there are other, I know people can get into college without having, great SAT scores and all that good stuff. But I'm just saying that's my issue. And it's the same thing with standardized tests with students. I have a problem with that being, you telling me that their grades don't mean shit. Excuse my language. I'm sorry. Their grades don't mean anything. But if they pass or fail this test at the end of the year, that is the measurement. And that's why I said the test itself isn't my issue. It's how the tests are being used is my issue. Because, for example,
and that's why I said I don't think that any one thing should be the only barometer. I don't think grades by
themselves. I agree. Yeah.
Grades by themselves cannot be the only measurement, because knowing as much as I know about education, if grades are the only measurement, there's going to be you think the scandal in California was bad? Grades are already bad just in terms of students just thinking about their GPA. You know how many parents pay teachers in order to get a good grade or do certain things? And I'm not saying it's right. Do you know how many administrations are in bed with certain parent groups and stuff like that to say we want this group of students to do well? Or maybe there are so many ways to manipulate grades. So I definitely think that grades are not should not be the only barometer. I'm not saying they shouldn't be at all, but they should be a fact, but they shouldn't be the all. Maybe some type of portfolio type thing that they can submit. Now, some schools, like depending on what your major is, you have to submit like a portfolio of work in order to get in, along with your with the other requirements. But I definitely think that if you are going to do the portfolio, of course there would need to be a rubric and everything. But I do think that there should be something outside of just grades, because grades alone, there's just too much. There's too many ways to manipulate grades. And this is coming from somebody who's given hundreds of thousands of grades in my career.
Exactly, Abby. And I've had both experiences, to be honest with you. I've done great on tests to the point where it kind of got me in trouble. And then I've done horrible on tests that I should have done great on. So I definitely understand what you're saying. Cali girl, that's a broad question, but to answer it, to answer generally, and we've done a couple of episodes on learning disabilities and what that looks like in the classroom. But generally, as a general ed educator, students that I have identified learning disabilities, I have to accommodate and follow the IEP. If I have students that I suspect, have a learning disability, I follow the protocol as far as
I think Rudy B is frozen. What she was going to say is that we have done quite a few. We have done a few, I should say, videos on students with learning disabilities, what they are, some of the accommodations that are made for them, how accommodations are addressed, how we even go through the process of making or determining what the accommodations are, and so forth. So you may want to look at some of those previous videos that we have. Now, with regard to test taking, I do think and feel and believe that we have to do. I do think that there's some. I can tell you how districts I have been in have done it. My home district, what will happen is everybody takes the initials for the high school graduation test, 10th grade. Most schools, 10th grade is the year where you take whatever test you have to take to graduate. What happens now is everybody takes the formal assessment. Everybody sits down for that. After that, those who don't pass, they get the chance to take it, a few more times. By the beginning of your senior year, if you have not passed, they start to look into alternatives that you can do in order to pass. And there are some alternatives that they have. There are some alternative tests that are easier as well. It may alter the type of diploma that you get. There's some that say you can take a SAT or ACT and get a certain score. I can say for high school graduation, you are going to take, in Florida, you are going to take some form of an assessment. In third grade, though, third grade in Florida is where you have, they will not let you go. Like high school, they'll let you go to the next grade level. You just can't graduate. In third grade, though, you cannot go to fourth grade unless they started it off unless you passed the third grade statewide assessment. And then they introduced, for those students who did not pass the assessment, you could do a portfolio. And that portfolio is graded by individuals from the state and from the school district who sit down, and based on the rubrics and parameters set in place, they determine whether or not that student should be passed on to the fourth grade based on that portfolio. So they do have alternatives where, because what was happening was in the beginning, you had kids that had been in third grade 3 years because they couldn't pass the test. And so they started to, do better with regard to that. And change happened and we had to change. So to accommodate.
All right.
Yeah,
sorry
I
about
don't
that,
know.
you guys. I don't know what's going on, but sorry about that.
I would venture to tell you the reason, and this, I'm gonna say this, and I'm gonna let Really Be go from here. As much as people may frown upon standardized testing, as much as people may say, I don't do well with standardized testing, what people have to understand is K through 12 is instruction and preparation for entering the workforce. And just about, I'm not gonna say every job, but most jobs, there's some form of an assessment that at some point you're gonna have to take to prove that you know your job. Sometimes to get promotions, you have to take a formal assessment on your job to get promotion. Sometimes in order to get the job, period, you have to take some form of an assessment, standardized test in order to get or obtain that job. So I think that if we are preparing students for that, giving them tangible test taking skills and strategies is a part of preparing them for the workforce, because standardized testing, whether or not you think so, is a part of the workforce.
Am I here? Okay. I don't know what's going on, but anyway, yeah. So when we start talking about the future, I know just to transition a little bit from the
Hey, Sunshine, Florida. And I think Really Be is frozen again. I don't know what she's got going on. I don't know who she made mad, but the internet gods, Al Moore and his internet, is not happy with her. So, anybody have any questions about that? Because I have more that I can say. You know what I mean? I always have more I can say. Yeah. About her internet. Yeah, her internet is refusing. Let her be great. So, if California in 2025 decides to do away with standardized testing as a means for entrance into college, is that they're going to become, are they going to be the trendsetter or the pioneer in that? I assume most red states will fight it vehemently because anything California does, red states are not here for it. But other blue states, are they going to look to see how California fares with this and then take on that same stance, or decide that they're going to do the same thing? That's a question that I would love to know, because you have other states that have large university systems, like a New York. New York has a huge university system within the state of New York, as well as within the city of New York. You have SUNY, SUNY, and you have, I don't know if it's pronounced SUNY as well. They have CUNY, City Universities of New York, and then State Universities of New York as well. So they have a huge university and college system there. We already know it wouldn't be difficult because most grad schools now, you don't have to take the GRE for a lot of grad schools now. You don't have to take the GRE now if it's a specialized school, or you are going into the field, meaning if you are going into law school or medical school or something like that, you're going to have to take one of those exams to get into those schools. But for a lot of the traditional master's programs, they're not requiring you to take a GRE anymore. They just go by your transcript from whatever university you went to. So I could really see that happening, because college now has become a business. There are probably just as many for-profit colleges as there are not-for-profit in the area. So, I mean, in America, I should say. So I would venture to tell you that I could see undergraduate moving in that direction if they wanted to. Would it be?
Moving in what direction? I've missed probably the last 5 minutes of what you said. Sorry, I don't know what's going on with my internet, but I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna work with it. What you saying that you see undergrad moving in what direction?
As a lot of the master's degree programs or grad school programs where they don't require any standardized assessments, no GRE required anymore. They just go based on your undergrad
That's what I did.
transcript.
Neither one of my master's programs I needed my GRE. I took the GRE, but neither one of my master's programs I had to submit the scores. Neither one of them. So I don't. There are plenty of schools that are not using the GRE right now because, like I said, and it's a fully accredited program and all that good stuff, and that wasn't required. We had to, do the application. We had to write an essay, but we didn't. I didn't have to submit my GRE score. So
I needed it for my first master's. I did. I took the GRE. I needed it for my first master's. I remember. But the thing about it is, and I try not to, even though I don't have a problem with standardized testing, I just want to say, I am cognizant of people who have issues with testing, and that's why I always say there needs to be something else, maybe a portfolio option, or some other means by which you can assess outside of just the transcript or grades. Because I know me, I'm a test taker. That is something that I do well. I know that I've always done that well. I can sit down and think that. Can you move your head so we can make sure you're not frozen? And she's frozen again. My program doesn't require the GRE, but I figured it was because we still have a million and one other tests to take. Well, it's not just that legally declared, bro. Most master's degree programs nowadays, like the GRE, is a thing of the past now. You really don't have to take a GRE at all to get into grad school. Why is my sound breaking up? I have no idea. They don't want me to be great either. They just don't want us to be great. The people and powers that be know that we're talking about standardized testing, and they don't want us to keep talking about standardized testing. They don't they don't want us to do that. There's a lot of money being made with standardized testing. That is the agent behind most of what you see with standardized testing. If we're really being honest, somebody knows somebody that developed these tests and developed the systems by which to score these tests and are getting paid hundreds of millions of dollars. That's the long
Yeah.
and short of it.
And that's okay. So that's a great transition into the AP exam. And I'm gonna just talk fast because I don't know. And I apologize for the sound and stuff because we're using my internet and my internet is tripping. So when El Teddy is breaking up or whatever, that's because whatever's going on with my internet is what's affecting the whole situation. But um anyway, they're practicing for the air show for the 4th of July, and every time they do the flyover, it seems like it's messing up the internet. Anyway, so I teach AP at my school, advanced placement classes, and the College Board changed the rules or the process this year as far as payment. Whereas before the kids had to pay, I think it was like by March or something like that. This year they changed it, and the kids had to pay by December the 1st. By the beginning of December, if you intended to take the test, you had to already pay. And the idea was, El Teddy, are you there?
I'm here.
Okay, I just couldn't tell if you were frozen because I'm paranoid now.
No, I'm
Um,
here.
the idea is that if the parents have paid and the students know their parents have paid, then everybody is more vested in, you know, doing well on the exam. So when all of this happened, the decision had to be made about what they were going to do about the testing. And the AP portion of the College Board decided they were going to move forward with giving the AP exam and figure out a way to do it online. Personally, I think it's because the tests were already paid for and they did not want to have to refund. Because remember, that was across the country. And I was like, they do not want to have to refund all these school districts, all of that money. And then it would have to trickle down to the parents and all of that. That's what my opinion was. I'm sure they're going to give us a whole bunch of song and dance. But I really think that had it been a situation where they hadn't collected money yet, I don't think they would. I think they would have done the same thing everybody else did and canceled the exam. IB canceled their exam. SATs were canceled, ACTs were canceled, but it's the AP exam moved forward. And almost immediately, the kids took the test last week. My students took theirs on Tuesday. On Wednesday, a lawsuit was filed on behalf of parents and students who felt as though the exam kids got kicked off, kids weren't able to submit their answers. A lot of kids have to retake the test because they weren't able to finish it in the allotted time. It was just, they were just citing all of these issues that they had with trying to do the test online. And oh, thank you so much, Callie Girl. Thank you for coming by. Please make
Thank
sure
you
you
so much,
subscribe.
Callie girl. Appreciate
Yeah,
you.
appreciate your conversation. And so when we start talking about the future, like, is that the future? Now, I mean, I don't know what's going to happen with the lawsuit and all that good stuff. But when we think about the future, I mean, is this going to be the future of, the more and more we're talking about virtual learning and all these different things? Is that the future that we're looking at? Is that the kids are going to be able to take these? And, El Teddy and myself had a conversation when I first told him that, and we were talking about how strict the College Board is as far as protocols are concerned when it's time to take these tests, and how many of their own rules they had to suspend and relax to allow students to take this test from home. And so I don't know. It's an interesting conversation. The general feedback from my students, the general feedback was that they thought they did okay. I just got an email today saying that the scores are available, that it's available for me to see my kids' responses. So definitely the scoring process is faster. But I don't think that's their final score. I think that's just for us to see the data of, who finished it and all that good stuff. Sonny, what you think about that? The latest development with the AP, being a former AP teacher. What is your take on that, El Teddy?
It's such a quagmire because at this point, because they have and still are, I think the last test is Friday.
Might be. I don't know. I only knew. Look, I only knew when my kids
It
took
was
theirs.
two
I
weeks
didn't pay
of testing.
attention.
But because think about it, you normally would have readers, people who would read and certainly you don't want, there was still some form of a writing prompt that they had to write to. You don't want computer scoring, that you got to put tangible eyes on a writing prompt or a response, a written response to writing prompt. And so, but if it's a whole, excuse my French, shit show, and what do they do then? Like, are you going to say, well, we're just going to scrap it and say, nobody gets credit, and but then you would have to refund the money? Or do
Right.
you say, well, everybody just gets credit, then there goes the integrity of your exam? So I think they cornered themselves into a situation thinking that it will all work out, and they might be in a bit of a in a hard place situation, because if you still have to have people that are scoring it, they would, I guess, would have to score from home.
They can still score
They
it
can score
though.
from home. I could see them scoring it from home,
Yeah.
maybe. I mean, the multiple choice part that's a matter of seconds,
Right.
I'm sure that as soon as they uploaded that, those scores were available.
Well, they
But
didn't even do multiple choice. It was all. It was all written.
oh, well, see, now you have to have scores.
Yeah.
And so the thing about SAT is they have, normally what you do is you would have, just to explain, just to, I'm not breaking the fourth wall. I don't know which wall this would be with testing. But what they do is they bring back, when they get to collect the test, they have readers. And what a reader does is, you're in a room full of a whole, like a big, I'm just going to say gym. You got tables and tables and tables of a group of, I forgot the number. I think for my exam, it was 8 to 12. And they would sit at a table and they would all read the same test and they would score it. They would discuss it then, come to a consensus, and do another score. And then that's how you would come to the score. So it was never just one person or two people, that there was multiple people that was reading that particular response, and that's how they were coming up with the answers. And so they were naturally, after reading so many, you would get to a standardized, you would get to a, okay, this is a this is this score, this is that score, and so forth and so on. So I just wonder, the whole part of scoring was that collective where, and I guess they could still do it through like team rooms, or the Teams, the app with the team room, or Zoom and different things like that. So it is feasible, I guess, but definitely it would be changed from how it used to be with all of the social distancing and so forth. And I wonder if that would change the integrity of the score. I don't know. I'm just thinking, I went way too deep into that. I know, because those are the kind of nerdy teacher things that I like. And yeah, I don't know if really be asleep or if she's frozen.
I'm listening.
Oh, okay. You good? Okay, you're okay. Because we got to check.
I
But
know. I know. Trust me. Every once in a while, I'm just going to tilt my head.
I'm very curious. I just would not trust the AP scores this year. I just wouldn't.
The one thing I told my students, I told my students, I said, this is going to probably be your best opportunity to get a 5, a 4, or 5, because there was no multiple choice. It was all open ended. It was, well, for my exam, it was all written. It was two. They had 2 questions. They were timed. I think the first question was they had 20 minutes.
And she's frozen. Generally, what they do, that's what they do. They give them a block of time, and they have recommended times for each particular essay. And so what ends up happening is for example, the old way we used to test with AP Lang, you would have 40, 40, and 40. It was 3 essays, 40, 40, and 40, which equated to about 2 hours, I believe it was, of testing. Now, at the end of the first 40 minutes, they would say, please move on to, or it's recommended that you move on to question number 2 or the second essay, but you could still decide, I'm gonna still keep working, I'm gonna borrow time from this one to go to that one. You could do it out of order if you wanted to. Like, that was something that I always told my students. We would always handle question number first, because question number 2 was always the hardest question. It just was. And that's this question where students
But see,
traditionally
they can't
across
do
the
that now.
get the worst on. But that takes away that option now.
Right. And that's what I'm saying. They don't do that because they had to answer the first question, submit it, then go to the second question.
Yeah,
Now,
here's the other
they could
integrity
use,
part.
right, but they could use notes. They could use notes.
Which
they
is
could either cut
anything that AP.
I'm just exactly. That's what I'm saying. Like,
the other
when I saw that,
part,
when I saw that they could use notes, I was like, so that just changed my whole way of preparing my kids for the exam. I'm like, y'all can use notes, and they tell you the topic. Are you serious right now? They told them topics of the questions, and they could use notes. I said, so on one hand, was it unfair to some?
Well, there's an unfair part that I think a lot of people, I know I would have raised hell about in my exam because I'm English. My students are so used to pen and paper, because you can't use a pencil. You have to use pen. They do not let you use pencil at all. So my students know, just draw a line through it. Don't try and scribble, because that wastes too much time, and you need every second you can. But if my students have prepared for paper and pen, and now you're telling me this is typed, that's a whole different situation. Because while you may think your child is computer savvy, your child is thumb savvy. Those of us old school, we were taught ASDF, JKL, semicolon. We had to take the typing classes where you had to learn QWERTY keyboard and stuff like that. Our kids never thumb the knife. They had to do it with their thumb. Baby, they'll knock it out the park. But when you talk about traditional keyboard, they're just not as fast as we'd like them to be. And that cuts into the time of, if you're being timed like that, you need that time for, thinking and gathering your thought and putting them on, putting your response down. But when you got to take into account, oh, I got to type now, and I don't type as fast as maybe I write, now you have a whole nother situation.
And that is definitely a disadvantage, because you're right. Everybody does not type. Everyone does not type quickly. And what they said was that they weren't going to, worry about misspellings and grammatical errors as long as it did not change the meaning of what the person was saying, which, they had 3 different ways they could do it. They could either type it into the actual exam. They could type it in Microsoft Word and
I think she's frozen again. But there's so many integrity issues with regard to it. As a former, someone who's taught many AP students, and someone who's taught many AP teachers how to instruct AP students. There's so many things that go into it, but like I tell my students, like I tell teachers, when the time comes, if you are prepared, you'll knock it out. You'll be fine.
Okay. So anyway, that's what it was. I'm sorry, El Teddy. Thank you for. I don't know what's going on, but yeah, and I think that has a lot to do with why the AP, why there's that lawsuit, because there was so many. They talked about no accommodations for special ed kids. Like, it's a lot. It was a lot. It was a lot. So, okay. Oh, okay.
Because, and I'm thinking if I remember correctly, even when we had the traditional AP exam, a lot of the AP exams, the traditional accommodations that we were able to make for the statewide standardized testing were not made. For example, in statewide testing, there are some students who have the accommodation that says you must have the questions read to you. They ain't doing that.
No.
I don't
Mm-mm.
think in the traditional test they don't even do extended time. I'm thinking, like, give me a moment. And what our student and what our school, what no, well, I don't know, because what our school used to do was, if a student had an accommodation, they would have a conversation with the parent and the student before them and say, "Listen, if you are going to, hey Sherry, take this AP course, please understand this respective accommodation will not be met in the class because that's not an accommodation that College Board does within the test. So you need to know, if you want to be in this class, that you're not going to be able to have that accommodation. And if you're, and because it's not a required class to graduate, and because you don't need it in order to, they would tell students who needed accommodations, you either deal with it or don't take the class. And
Mm-hmm.
that was their way of not having to think about accommodations with regard to going to AP College Board with it. And that's in all of the districts that I've been in. So I don't know, not in your district, really, do they allow students that need accommodations with that, like that, to take the AP test? Traditionally, not this
I'm
year,
gonna be
but
honest with you.
traditionally.
I'm gonna be honest and tell you I don't know, and the reason why I say I don't know is because this is only my second year doing AP. So I honestly don't know. I know that in my classroom, in both years, I haven't had a student with I haven't had a student with an IEP. I've had students with 504s, and they've had health issues, but I haven't had a student with an IEP. No,
Yeah.
I'm telling a lie. That's a lie. I did have a student with the IEP. However, that's a lie. I did have a student with an IEP. So I don't. The answer is I don't know. I know they didn't get it this year. That I can promise you, they didn't get nothing this year. So
Yeah, but I know traditionally College Board is unyielding. They're not even yielding on the time frame. If your school got an issue starting at the time, because they have everybody on the Eastern Seaboard start at the same time, and if your school can't start at that time, guess what? Every student in that building gets disqualified. Or, because even in order to take a makeup, you have to apply for a makeup exam. I forgot how long in advance. It's a certain number of days in advance of the test. You have to apply and know that you have to take a makeup exam.
that's good, Sherry.
Um,
Continue to do that. Yeah, 504 is a physical. Yeah, generally, yeah. So I have students, like I have a student who has diabetes. I have a student who has another health issue. Off the top of my head, I don't remember, but another health issue. So I think it might be sickle cell. Anyway, so they have, so they have a 504. But like I said, again, the answer to your question is I don't know. I would have to ask because I didn't proctor the AP exam last year. I did proctor IB exam, but I didn't proctor any AP exams last year. So I don't know. I just don't know. I honestly don't know. Um, but I know that was part of the lawsuit. So somewhere somebody felt like something didn't happen because I know when I read the article about the lawsuit that was filed, that was one of the things that was cited in the article. Was about accommodations not being met. So
but
that's something that
that's why I'm
that
saying
might be a
I don't
situation.
know.
But what I'm saying is that might be a situation where the lawyer throwing everything at the wall and just hoping
Right.
anything stick. You know what I'm saying? It might just
Mhm.
be a situation like that. Because again, I don't that the answer is I don't know. But if you have a little more experience with doing AP, so that's something that you know that's something that really you never had, then yeah, I would go with what you said. I would go with that. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, they generate. But like I said, when I used to talk to the counselors that would do scheduling and things like that, they would tell me, we avoid students that need accommodations. And if the parent does come to us and ask us, they make the parent sign a waiver. They have a waiver already on file that the parent has to sign. Is I know that my child, by signing up for this class, will not be given that accommodation because of the nature of the assessment that they must take.
Okay. And that may be something that they do at my school. Again, I just don't know. I don't know. And that's the best answer I have. Um I know that the the IB exam is in two parts. There's one part that's internal, then there's a part that's external. The internal exam still took place this year. The external exam was suspended this year, and so those scores are going to be based on the internal exam. But going back to your statement about the grading, they're still going to have the readers. And like you said, they'll just do it from home rather than, flying them to a location. And well, not flying them, but them going to a location and grading. They'll just be doing it from home. So, yeah, I think that, like you said, and Quintessential was saying that the AP exam was very helpful for her. She took a lot of AP classes going into college. They're not going to get rid of the AP program. They're going to figure out a way to adjust. And that's just what it's going to be.
Yeah, that's just what's going to happen.
Yeah, they're going to figure out a way to adjust.
Too lucrative. And when you think about it, it's too lucrative from both sides. If we had some schools, one of the schools that I taught at, it was an AP factory. They knew the caliber of the AP instructors at that school. If your child went to that school and took, like, for example, I was one of the AP teachers. They knew if your child went in my class, I had over like 5 years, my passing rate for the AP test was 93%. Like 93% of the students that entered the class passed the AP test with a 3 or higher. So it became, and it was the same way with the other AP disciplines. So what would happen is you got your child into that school because it was known as the scholarship school. No, you didn't physically get necessarily a scholarship, but based on the amount of AP courses that your child may have gotten a 3, 4, 5 in, I could have gotten X amount of college credits. It was basically like you got a scholarship because that child would, be able to forego maybe a freshman year in college, or in some cases more than just the first 2 semesters. Which was because, for example, I can tell you now in Florida, if a student gets a 4 or a 5 on an AP English exam, be it English Lang or English Lit, in all of the state schools in Florida, if they get a 4 or 5, they give them credit for both English 1 and English 2, both freshman English classes, 1101 and 1102 in the state of Florida. So it just depends. That's why they call it's too lucrative on both sides. It's lucrative for the AP for College Board because they make all of the money from people from school districts or individuals paying for the test. It's lucrative on the side of the parents because paying for AP test is much cheaper than paying for college credits. And most districts will pay it. Most districts, they pay the bill for it. Like if you get signed up for it, the district will pay.
Yep. I know my school district, if you have free and reduced lunch, they pay for the exam.
So it's lucrative from all angles, and you
got the schools had the option of the school districts had the option of opting out of doing the AP exam, but like in my district, because the school paid for so many tests, they weren't going to opt out because they weren't going to get their money back.
The thing about it is too, when you and this goes into a whole nother live for a whole nother day, AP exams, you start to dip into school accountability grades, where now. Yeah. Because you have X amount of students, hey, Ms. Creole, X amount of students that are sitting for an exam, that school gets X amount of points toward their school accountability grades. I know I think you said y'all have a number system for your grades. In Florida, we have a letter grade system, A, B, C, D, F, just like what your child would get. Hey, BB Nice.
Hey, BB. So, yeah, we have it's a star rating. So the highest is a 5-star.
And so what will happen is Now they've changed the system a little bit now, but you would have schools just putting people in the AP class with knowing full well they weren't prepared for it, weren't going to pass no AP test, but they just wanted credit for a child sitting in that class to be able to say, oh, this school has X amount of AP students. And now that helps boost their grade, but they've changed it a little bit now. So now if they're going to sit, now they take, okay, what's the percentage of passing? And that is how they get help. That's how the accountability stuff goes down.
Yeah, so it's definitely even getting into scheduling for next year. I know that's a dilemma that my principal is dealing with right now, is figuring out the whole scheduling side of this, you know, about for AP exams. If we're not going to be in the classroom, and IB, and it's become an issue on that side as well.
Quintessential, most schools, I can't think of a school where you don't have to get recommendations. And there's a different process for getting into AP classes. It's not just say, oh, you as a parent can just go and say, I want my child in AP. It doesn't work like that. Not for any school district that I've worked for. You can go.
So they got to apply my district. They have to apply my district as well.
You have to get recommendations from teachers saying that this student is capable of the rigor that is required for that class. But yes, now, and we may have to come back really and talk about some more stuff that coronavirus will affect, because that whole scheduling and thing, that's a whole nother ball. There's a lot that goes into scheduling that just parents are just ignorant to. And I hate to use that word ignorant, but just don't know. Only because
they just don't know to the extent. Yeah.
Parents are usually thinking about one child, maybe 2 or 3 kids. Whereas a counselor in the school has to think about thousands of students sometimes, and weaving those students. And then you got to think about the teachers who can teach those classes. And then you got to think of, okay, how does this fit in with things like other requirements for graduation, like electives, the lunch schedules, whether or not you should put this AP class in the morning or in the afternoon, when you know in the afternoon kids' brains are turned on. Like, it's so many factors. You got to think about different grade levels, and it's so many different factors. Test scores.
That's one of the emails I got yesterday, was looking over the list of kids who applied for AP.
And I know because I had to sit down with I usually was the first department chair that would sit down with the counselors with regard to going over testing, because the first class that the first subject area they normally try to do scheduling for is English, because they know everybody has to take English.
Everybody has to take it, yeah.
So I usually would have that.
Everything goes through the English department.
But yeah, that's a whole nother live, and I know we already been on here an hour.
Yeah, but that's definitely a topic we can talk about, because you're right. That is an issue. And again, I'm dealing with it in conversations with my school, with the person that schedules, that does the scheduling, even going down to them not knowing if we're going to be in the building. You know, it's easy to make a class top heavy if you're never going to be in a physical classroom. But then when we have to go back to school, and if we're going to be trying to do this social distancing, what does that look like? How many kids are we putting in a classroom? Like, scheduling has become it's already a headache. It is already a headache, but it has become such a bigger headache with that consideration having to be put into place. So yeah, we could definitely put that on the list of topics to discuss at a future date, because it has been an hour. You know, we guys try to keep it to an hour. We don't keep you too long. For all of those that came through, thank you. Again, just to remind you, if you have any questions, concerns, comments, criticisms, the email is scrolling at the bottom of the page, or the bottom of the screen. You can always email us and share information. Like I said, questions, comments, or even criticisms, feel free to share. Please make sure that you are subscribing and telling all your friends about this wonderful channel. Like I said, we sort of had to take a little bit of a forced hiatus, but we are back. And we are back to committing to bringing you guys regular content. We right now we're not committing to a date like we were doing before, like doing it on Sunday, because El Teddy work schedule be fluctuating. But we definitely are committed to bring you guys a show per week so that we can again get back to the basics and do regular. So if you have questions, anything you think you would like for us to do a show on, any questions you want us to answer, please reach out to us. I know, like I said, we're going to definitely do a show on Common Core, and we're going to definitely continue to speak on how this whole our new normal is going to translate into the school year. And the more information that I get, as I get emails for what my school district is doing, I will continue to share. Again, that's one school district out of many. However, it may give you an idea of what types of things to expect. I will say this: while we were sitting here, I did actually get an alert. A local school district here in Northern Virginia, they are making summer school mandatory for the students. So that, again, I haven't read the full article. I don't know what that's going to look like. But again, there are other school districts that may decide to do that same thing. And you really don't have much of an argument as a parent, because it's not like, you can still go on vacation. You can still do whatever, because it's going to be virtual. I know my school district, summer school is virtual. So for the kids who have to go to summer school, it's all online. So anyway, again, as always, I will give El Teddy the final word. I will shut up.
Well, I don't think that I should have the final word today, because our great military has decided that they're not going to let you talk anyway, because
Right.
So I think that I have talked enough, but certainly me and Really B will have there'll be a time when she and I will have a wonderful debate on all things Common Core, even some things dealing with assessment. We have spirited debate. Y'all should know. For all of the people who think that all we do is, they are so kumbaya. Listen, we have heated debates.
I don't debate. He debates. Hey, Jaded.
Hey, Jaded. What's going on?
Y'all know I'm the nice one in this situation. So
no, she's not. Y'all know, but I ain't got to say that. Y'all already know better. Anyway,
we should have a Zoom meeting or a StreamYard for the teacher. I'm open to that if people want to come on and have I'm definitely open to that.
Certainly, if you are an educator, you want to come on with us, we are welcome to that. Or even if you're just a parent that want to come on and ask questions and things like that, or not a parent or a concern, you got a loved one that's a student and you just want to know, or even if it's just for your own edification, and it's not just you don't have a student right now, but you just want your concern as a concerned citizen paying taxes that go into the education field, you may want to come on and be able to ask questions or get some, insight on what's going on. We definitely are here for that. The email is on.
We can definitely do that. Yeah, we can look into that. Yeah, incorporate that for future consideration. I like that idea, Quintessential. Thank you. I would love to have you on BB Nice, definitely, because you've been homeschooling. You've been struggling through this homeschooling, through this whole situation. So El Teddy and I wrap it up. Maybe the next time we do a show, we'll drop the link. We'll drop the link for you guys and let you come on and we can have a nice little conversation. I think that would be cool. I think that'd be cool. All right. Well, thank you guys for coming through. I appreciate, as always, your support, your time. We will see you guys on the next appointed time and location. Talk to y'all later. Peace.